And roll. Who am I and why do I do this? So I do what I do mostly because of the clients. I'm actually not your typical realtor. I have a master's in social work. That's what I did before real estate. I like to help people. So that's why I do what I do. And I also was a teacher at one time. So I also like educating. And that's why I do the webinars. And I also believe that people deserve better than the industry average. And so that's why we educate. Um, and that's why I do what I do. And I love helping people through different stages of life. We definitely see people go through not having kids to having kids to moving to bigger homes. And in your all case, sometimes moving to smaller homes. So also, I am a top producing realtor as well. So I am, let's see, they're supposed to pop up. Northern Virginia Magazine has recognized me many years as a top real estate agent. Nova Real Producers has recognized me as a top 500 agent in Northern Virginia. I'm a top part of the top agent network in our area. Washingtonian Magazine has recognized me. I'm a five-star agent on Zillow. I'm part of the Keller Williams Platinum Club. Arlington top producer. I'm a lifetime top producer with Northern Virginia Association of Realtors, and James is also at the top of his class as well. So I don't like to brag on myself, but someone told me sometimes I should. And just so you know that I have a little bit of experience. I have been doing this for 16 years now. And if you missed it earlier, I am older than I look. And this topic is very close to my heart. I'll talk about that in a minute. But first of all, here is the agenda for tonight. So preparation leads to success, and our agenda is we're going to start with identifying your concerns. So that's where I said, we're going to have you chat, right? So you can start that now if you want. What are your concerns? We want to identify what those are and share what are those concerns about downsizing. And there's a lot of things to think about, like we mentioned. So we're going to talk about the downsizing options. There's different options for what to downsize into. We're going to talk about financing options in case you need financing. Not everyone does, but some people do. The selling options. So there's also a number of options to go about selling. And then we will talk about next steps. Because there is so much to talk about, I'm going to talk fast tonight and hopefully get through everything. And also, though, because inevitably there are so many decisions to make and so many options. I mean, that's the good news, bad news here, that there actually are a lot of options for you all. So what I am going to offer as well at the end is an opportunity to schedule another consultation, a private consultation to talk about your circumstance individually, to talk about, the options that are right for you. Because again, there's different options and it's not a one size fits all for everybody. So at the end, we'll give you an option to do that. All right, so understanding your concerns. So this is your opportunity to participate, just to start using that chat box. So if you're on a phone, I think if you don't see the chat box, if you tap the phone, then the chat box comes up usually. Sometimes if your toolbar is not long enough, you have to maybe click the dot, 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 the more button to find your chat. But otherwise, it looks like a little chat bubble. So hopefully we'll get some people here to share what are some of your concerns about the concerns or questions about downsizing. I've got to let's see if I can pull up the chat box. Oh, there it is. Overwhelmed. Okay, great. Not great that you're overwhelmed. Sorry, that I'm getting participation and then I can see overwhelmed with the amount that needs to go. Absolutely, that is for sure. Another overwhelmed. I think that's somebody else. Too much stuff. Yeah, that often is the case with downsizing. Getting my parents and myself more ready for a transition, for sure. That's actually, so I started to say, this is very close to home for me, like literally, because my parents are in their 80s. And my parents have a big home where they raised me and my five siblings. And I don't think that home fits their lifestyle anymore. I actually wanted my mom to come to the webinar tonight, but she couldn't. So we are going through this ourselves with my siblings and my parents as well, figuring out what's the right fit for them and what are their next steps. Um, and God, that reminds me, like I have lots of friends who are going through this as well. They wanted to come tonight because they're people my age have parents who are hitting the stage of needing to downsize. Where do you begin? Great question. Real concern. Oh, that's Kristen. Lots of decluttering. How to select a good estate sale company. Okay. Yep, that's certainly can be part of the process as well. So let me see here. I'm going to close the chat box, but you can feel free to still chat in there. Oh no, and now I lost my view of you all. Okay, I got it back. I told you technical difficulties. Okay, here we go. Understand your concerns. So much stuff, right? I had a feeling that that was one of your concerns. So, what else did I have listed here? Managing new costs. Maybe that didn't come up in the chat, but that might be a concern, changing from one thing to another. Some of you maybe have paid off your home and going into maybe a different situation. Will a smaller home be big enough? I don't know if that came up in the chat. Again, I'm not looking at the chat anymore. Feel free to keep typing in there. But again, with all of that stuff, how do you go into a smaller home? So, is there a happy medium between getting rid of everything and moving some of it into another home? The hassle and the logistics, right? Where do you start? So these are some of the concerns, and finding the right home, might be a concern for you all. So that's one of the first things that we're going to get into, is again, not there are options out there that there's not a one size fits all for everybody. So first of all, the benefits of downsizing. Let's start there, right? So I think like my parents, for example, my mom said to me, she's like, I just want to stay where I am. And I'm like, Mom, it's because that's easy, right? It's just easier to stay where you are. But there's benefits. So I have to keep reminding her of the benefits of downsizing. Relief from the burdens of a bigger home. My mom has a big home that she does not need. She doesn't need to clean that big home, right? Or pay someone to clean that big home. The yard, the snow, they're in Massachusetts, right? So ideally either reduce or eliminate maintenance is really a big benefit of downsizing. Accessing your home's equity, right? I mean, my parents paid for 6 kids to go through college. They didn't save a lot of money. They were self-employed. I mean, so their money is tied into their home. And so, that's another thing is that, for a lot of you, right, if you've been in your home a long time, you probably have really great equity. And you could just take a home equity line of credit. That's one option, but then you don't get the benefit of reducing your maintenance. But accessing that money, right? So by selling the home, you can get that money to use for other things, which might be having a different lifestyle. So that's another benefit of downsizing, right? Is that making a decision to live a different lifestyle, stairs, for example, right? Maybe you can do stairs now, but maybe in the future you might not be able to do stairs. And so that might be a decision to just, like I live in a one-level home because I was already thinking about it, right? I was like, I planned ahead. I didn't want the stairs. So making that decision to get into something without the stairs. Access to resources as you get older too. Maybe someday you're going to stop driving, right? I was talking to someone today actually about her mom, and she said, my mom really shouldn't be driving. At some point you might stop driving. So access to maybe public transportation, maybe different hospitals, or uh, the places that you like to spend time. Like Old Town, for example, like some people want that walkable lifestyle where they can just, yeah, get in and not have to drive and walk out the door to shops and eateries. So, access to resources can be a different lifestyle. Changing your climate. Maybe you want to move south for warmer weather, for example, and also maybe moving closer to family. So, right, lots of options, as I said. So these are some of the benefits of downsizing that hopefully get you over the hurdle of some of those hard things about downsizing. So downsizing options, I think kind of One of the most obvious ones is a smaller single family home. So we're going to talk about some of the options for downsizing. What are they and what are the pros and cons? Frankly, there is no perfect answer, unfortunately. Even when I sell a home to anybody, I tell people there's no perfect home. We don't talk about helping people buy the perfect home. We talk about helping people find the right home, the right next home. So a smaller single family home might, there's pros and cons. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of each of these things. Single level living, right? So mostly with a home like this, you'll get mostly single level living and more square footage than some of your other options. And so this is, right, like again, going from that big home down to a smaller home, this is not so small. One of the things for my parents, for example, is room for guests, right? They want to, because all of us are far from where my parents live, so they want to have space for the kids and the grandkids to stay when they come. So that's, again, maybe big to smaller, but still a single family home perhaps. Now the cons of a single family home, of course, are that the exterior maintenance. You can pay someone else to do it. That's a cost, right? Or or you do it yourself. But mowing the lawn, the snow, the trees, the leaves, the long-term maintenance, that roof and the HVAC, right, are not going to last forever. So those are long-term big expenses that you might have to plan for and pay for. And a single family home may need adaptations. This home, for example, the laundry's downstairs, right? So if you don't want to do those stairs, you might have to move the laundry upstairs. So it's again not necessarily perfect. Why is my Sorry, I don't know if you could hear that. My phone was ringing in on my computer. Condo. Okay, so a condo is an option. Now, I'm going to get to senior living, right? Like that's certainly an option. And I don't know if you all came in thinking that's the option. I think that's the most obvious one. But a condo is another great option that's not senior living. So what are the pros and cons of a condo? Much less maintenance. Now, again, you very likely will probably still have an HVAC that is yours that you might have to pay for when you own a condo, but you won't have a roof and you won't have trees or leaves or snow to manage. So a lot less maintenance with a condo. Amenities are a nice benefit of living in a condo. You might get concierge services. You might have a fitness center there. You might have a pool. That's a different lifestyle than again living in a single family home. Fixed costs, your costs will be more fixed because you'll have that condo fee to pay monthly. And oftentimes that condo fee does include all of your utilities, instead of utilities changing. And then a community, there are actually a number of condo buildings in our area, especially particularly those buildings that have larger spaces, larger sized units. And they kind of end up acting as de facto senior living places. They don't have the services of a senior living place, but a lot of people choose to move into those condo buildings. So you end up living with a lot of other people your age. So you do get that built-in community there as well sometimes. So the cons of a condo, less square footage, right? So you're definitely going to be moving into a smaller space and also most likely not a lot of storage as well. Parking could be an issue. Typically with a condo, you're going to get 1 or 2 parking spaces. Now, hopefully that's just a temp, right? So when people come to visit, you might have to figure out parking, board management. So while you don't have to fix things in a condo, oftentimes you might have to go through the board to fix things. And sometimes that's a headache and sometimes that's a hassle. Sometimes it takes a while. And the board might change the condo fees. So while there are some fixed fees, condo fees do often go up, and that is a decision made by the board. Moving in with family, that's an option, right? Maybe people don't want to think about that, but it is an option. And actually here, what you don't have to move into their existing home. That's another point that I wanted to bring in, is that, the obvious answer is let me move in with my kids where they already are. But maybe you hadn't thought about, okay, maybe I can collaborate with my kids. Maybe we both can sell our homes and get a bigger home together. So that's an option that maybe you haven't thought about, right? Again, like looking kind of past the obvious here is that possibility. So pros and cons of moving in with family. Obviously, you have built-in support, being able to be with the kids, right? The grandkids. That's again a nice lifestyle for sure to have that family time built in, and the opportunity for financial savings and collaboration when you live with your family. Cons of moving in with family. I mean, I guess depends upon your family, right? There's that, but less privacy, obviously, when you live with your family, and less an accessible space. So if you're living in a shared space, you might not have your own space, or if you do need accessible adaptations, you may or may not have the space and ability to make adaptations for accessibility if and when the time comes. And relationship strain, right? I mean, that could be a factor. So it's a very personal decision, but it's an important one to consider. Like again, I think my parents, I'll say this, like I think my parents don't want to bother us. And maybe you all feel that way too, right? They don't want to be a bother, they keep saying. But if your family offers, right, like you all raised us, it's our turn to give back. So like, hopefully you can, if someone's offering, hopefully you can really consider that. Senior living, right? So of course, senior living is an option. We knew we would get here. And there's definitely pros and cons to this. I mean, there's a lot of pros. I mean, my parents are like, no, absolutely no, I don't want to. But there's built-in professional support. Here's the other thing, various levels of care. So like my parents, for example, are like, I don't want assisted living. It's it doesn't have to be that. There are various levels of care, right? You can do independent living without any services, but one of the advantages is that you can add services later as you need them because they're already built in there. No maintenance, right? Absolutely no maintenance here. So that's obviously a great advantage. And the built-in community there, that you will be with other people in similar circumstances, similar age. And they do have social activities and things like that. So don't take that for granted. Like, again, I think that'd be really good for my parents. And of course, all-inclusive managed costs, right? You're going to have a monthly fee that covers absolutely everything, including your food. Now, the con is that that cost is usually quite high. And your square footage here, again, is not going to be large. You're going to have a small square footage. And then availability, especially in our area, these may be hard to come by, right? I mean, if you all have looked into this already, there's often multi-year long waiting lists with these places. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure we said there are other options. And actually, the last one, which you might not have thought about, that I hadn't thought about either, but it was my brother-in-law who said, maybe they should rent, right? Like, and that's kind of like not an obvious one. And again, I at first was like, rent, oh my God, no. But there are some pros to renting. So again, you get no or low maintenance, right? If you're going to rent a single family home, you may still need to shovel the snow and rake the leaves and things like that. But it's going to be a lot less maintenance, right? You don't own that home. You don't own that roof. You don't own that HVAC. When something breaks, you call somebody to fix it. So that's an advantage. And it can be temporary, right? So maybe while you're waiting for a senior living place to open up, maybe you sell and rent temporarily. And that allows some flexibility, right? That you can sign a 1-year lease, a 2-year, sign a different term and be able to move later. And maximum liquidity here. So again, if you take your money and buy something else, then some of your money is going to just into something else. But if you rent, all of your money goes in the bank, right? And then you're obviously going to be paying your rent every month, but you're going to have access to the money that comes out of the sale of your home. The cons are no equity buildup. So maybe that doesn't matter to you at this age, right? So you won't have an asset appreciating, and maybe that's okay. Landlord management. So similar to board management, you've got to go through a landlord to fix things, and hopefully you get a good landlord, right? So hopefully it's someone who is attentive and gets things done and is attentive to your needs. And then rent can increase, right? So there is that. And you would still have to pay your utilities. So those are, I think I covered, right? I'm not sure that I missed any. Hopefully I covered kind of all of the options of where to go once you decide this big house is not for you anymore. So to recap, the benefits of downsizing, right? Relief from the burden of a bare home, eliminating or reducing the maintenance, accessing your home's equity, maybe getting it into the bank or getting at least a pot of it into the bank if you do buy something less affordable, and being able to plan your lifestyle and move into perhaps a simpler lifestyle uh, or a different location that better suits your needs and has better access to your resources. So, buy first or sell first. We're going to talk about that, right? What are your options for selling and how to do that? So some of you might have enough cash to buy first, and if you do, that's great. But I didn't want to assume that's the case. Not again, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know that it's the case for everyone. So this is where James usually comes in. So he talks about the finances of buying first. So let me pull up the video. Where's the video here? It is. Nope, that's not the video. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to play this. Give me thumbs up or heads up to confirm that you can hear it.
Hi, I'm James Gattiosi with Atlantic Coast Mortgage, and I've been a mortgage loan originator for over 24 years, and I love helping people figure out if they can buy before they sell. So tonight we're going to talk about the financing of buying first. We're going to discuss where will the down payment come from, your financing options, and what does it take to qualify carrying both mortgages. So the finance of buying first. First of all, we have to determine what is an acceptable form of down payment. So what's unacceptable is an unsecured loan or cash from a non-secured credit line or loan, a credit card or cash advance, a personal loan. Only a gift is actually acceptable, not a personal loan. Cash or mattress money, generally not accepted, or sale of a property or personal property without a paper trail. So the down payment options from where the money can actually come from would be your checking or savings or investment accounts. A 401k loan is actually treated just like your normal money, and we don't even count that loan payment against you. You could receive a gift from a family member. You could use a HELOC or what's known as a home equity line of credit. You could use that on your current residence if you already have one, or if you're planning to sell in the future. You'd want to set up a home equity line of credit now so that you're ready when the time comes. Or the sale of personal property, like you could sell a piano or an automobile or a boat or a trailer or RV. And as long as you can paper trail where those funds came from, all these types of funds or all these types of assets would be acceptable forms of down payment. So the next thing we really look at is the financing of buying first. So if you have a current, say your current home is worth 800,000, you have a mortgage of 400,000, and you have a home equity line of credit that you haven't tapped into, or maybe you've tapped a little bit into. So you could actually use that home equity loan on your current residence or your departing residence, the house that you'll be selling, to use as a down payment on the new home. So keep in mind, if we're doing a conventional purchase, the required down payment for subsequent buy would be 5% down up to a loan amount of 1.249125. So in this scenario with a $1.1 million house, 20% would be roughly $220,000. So you'd have enough room on your home equity loan to use the down payment, assuming you can qualify carrying your old mortgage and the new mortgage. So another option we could do is if you didn't have a home equity line of credit on your current home, we could potentially send a home equity line of credit on the new home. So maybe how we structure it is we do a first loan at 80% on a $1.1 million house, and then we do a HELOC for 15%, which would be 165, and you put down 5%. Your down payment could come from a 401k loan. It could come from a gift, your savings, any of those things we talked about in the previous slide. So that'd be another way to do it as long as you can carry both mortgages. So one of the options we use if you can't carry both mortgages, meaning you don't have enough income to carry the property that you're currently residing in and the new property, you don't make enough income to carry that, we can do a bridge loan. So what is a bridge loan? It's a short-term loan. It's a 6-month interest-only loan. It's not escrowed for taxes and insurance. It can be done on your previous property or the property you're departing, or it could be done actually to purchase the new home. So once you're existing, if you did it on the departing residence, the house you currently live in, pulled some cash out maybe for your down payment, purchase the new home. Once you sell your home, you pay off the bridge loan and then keep the proceeds or do whatever you want with the funds. Maybe you pay down the new loan or whatever. But if we're doing it on the old house, the we'd be setting it up so you can purchase the new home without being able to carry, or, excuse me, with being able to carry both mortgages, the bridge loan and the new loan. Okay, if you can't carry both mortgages, so you don't have enough income, we could actually do the bridge loan as onto the new home, which would be an acquisition loan. So if you can't qualify carrying both mortgages, you purchase the new home using a bridge loan. And then once you sell your other home, now you can qualify because you got rid of that other mortgage. We'll refinance the bridge loan we did on your to acquire the property. So there's two different ways of doing it. We're going to do the bridge on the old home if you can carry both if you carry both payments. If you can't carry both payments from a qualifying perspective, we'll use it to acquire the property, and then we'll refinance that once your other home sells, clearing up that debt and obviously opening up your ability to carry the new mortgage payment. So if you're going to qualify for carrying for two mortgages at the same time, you must be able to qualify for both the payments. You have to have acceptable debt income ratio, meaning your monthly expenses versus your monthly income. It generally can't exceed 50% for conventional loans, or cannot exceed 50% for conventional loans. A lot of times with the jumbo loans, so if we're doing a loan, above that 1,249, 125 loan amount, let's say we're looking at something at 1.7 or 1.8 or much higher price point, and we're using a jumbo loan, they generally have a debt income ratio of 43%. To make it as easy as possible, if you make $10,000 a month, and we got to be at 43%, that means your expenditures or your bills cannot exceed $4,300, because $4,300 is 43% of 10,000. That's kind of how that formula works. Once again, getting in touch with me so I can figure all this stuff out. I can look at these strategies. We can look at 401k loans, bridge loans, home equity loans. The key thing really is to move on it now. So if you're looking at purchasing something, say 5, 6 months from now, you want to set up now. So when you're ready, you have all your ducks in a row to make it the most successful transaction for you and give you the best ability to actually win that property that you want. So next steps would be to complete a loan application on my website. It's just www.jamesgattiosi.com. I think it's missing a dot there. So just www.jamesgattiosi.com. I'll review your financials. We'll look at the ability, if you have an equity line, can we get an equity line now? How we can structure all this. My goal is to always get you into the right home at the lowest possible cost with the least amount of stress. So I will personally review, just like I said, your application, generate the best overall strategy for you. And my goal, once again, is to help you purchase your dream home, minimizing cost and maximizing your purchase power. So it's been great to chat with y'all. If you have any questions, my information is on the next slide. I'm at jgattiosi.com, where you can call or text me at 703-338-8836. Thanks so much.
All right. Okay. So, James's information is here, and we will make sure that you have that if you need that. So again, if you do want to talk to him, the best first step is doing a loan application at www.jamesgattiosi.com. I'll share his information again at the end. So then the sequence of selling and buying. Let's talk about what that looks like. So if you do qualify to buy first and then sell, frankly, that is the easiest thing to do, especially if you have lots of stuff, right? If you can buy a place, get your stuff out of the home, and then leave the home behind, then we'll talk about kind of next steps with that here shortly. But if you are able to buy first, I would say go for it. But there are a couple of options for doing that. So you can ratify on your next home And then you can list the home while you are still living there, and attempt coinciding closings, actually, if you do want to minimize the time between the sale, the purchase of the next home. But frankly, what is easiest and best if you're able to is buy your next home, close on the next home, move, right? Get everything out of the bigger home and then list the home, right? Leave it to someone like me to figure out how to get it ready on the market, give and take a little time getting it ready, and then put it on the market. So that really, if you can, is really the recommended way to go about it. If you do have to sell in order to buy, there's also a couple of ways to go about that. So you can, if you find a home that you love, you can make an offer to buy a home contingent upon selling your home. What that means is your home's not yet on the market, but you're basically making a promise to the owner of the home you want to buy that you will sell your home. You can understand that might not be very well received by the owner of another home, especially in our market, which is a strong competitive market. A little bit better than that is you can make an offer on a home contingent upon closing on your home. What that means is that your home has been on the market and is frankly under contract now, and you're just waiting for closing to happen. So that's a bit better. Again, getting it listed, getting an offer, getting under contract, and then shopping for your new home and making an offer contingent on closing. The best option, if you do have to sell first in order to buy, is to be able to make a non-contingent offer, not contingent on selling or closing your home. Again, we are in a quite competitive market in Northern Virginia, you're probably aware, which is good for selling, not as good for buying. And so in order to make a non-contingent offer, the way that we do that is you actually sell your home first and you ask for a rent back from the buyer, which very oftentimes a buyer is able to do. They can usually offer up to 60 days for you to stay in your home after it has been sold and then use that time to get into your next home, buy your next home. So it ends up being about 90 days because what happens is from contract to closing, so once you get that contract, it's about 30 days to closing. And then if you get a 60 days to rent back, you end up with about 90 days approximately from when you go on the market to when you need to be out of the home. So not a ton of time, but a lot of times, especially if you're ready, right? If you know what you're looking for, and working with a professional, then a lot of times that is enough time for people. So you're going to need to move, right? This is getting to that part about what do you do with your stuff. So whether you buy first or sell first, you're going to move, right? If you're downsizing, you're going to move. And so packing up your things and getting rid of things is one of your first steps either way, regardless, if you're going to buy first or sell first. So let's talk about what that looks like when you have so much stuff, when you're going from a big house to a smaller home. You have lots of clean out options. So an estate sale, someone asked about an estate sale. So some people don't realize that you can do an estate sale, while you're still living in a home. And by the way, an estate sale is just a fancy term for a yard sale, frankly. So you can do that too. You can just start having yard sales. If you're, online, Facebook Marketplace, buy nothing groups, if you're familiar with those. I mean, you can get rid of stuff by selling things and giving things away, online or at yard sales. An estate sale is a more professional version of that. And I do have a list of resources. So again, tonight I'm not going to be able to go through all the specific resources, but I did put together a list of resources for you all that I'm going to make sure everybody gets after this. Donation pickups. So obviously you can take your things to Goodwill or Salvation Army or the drop box in the parking lots, but you can also have them come to you to pick up. There are a number of options where they will come to you and pick up your stuff. Sometimes you have to leave it at the curb. Sometimes they will come in and pick it up from inside. County bulk pickup. That's another good one that people don't sometimes think about. So in Fairfax County, you get like at least a couple of free bulk pickups a year. And, most of the jurisdictions are going to offer you a couple of bulk pickups. So, if there is furniture that you're just going to throw out, schedule a bulk pickup for free, right? You don't have to pay for the junk removal, but that is also an option, right? When it gets near the end and there's a lot of stuff, calling in junk removal. And again, that on my list of resources are junk removal companies, shredding services, right? If you've got lots of documents. So, there are shredding services. Again, you can take your things to a place for shredding, but also there are services where they will come to you. They will bring a truck to you. And oftentimes there are free shredding events out there as well. Realtors often do free shredding events. And sometimes at the government, local government center, they might do a free shredding event. And preserving memories. That's another thing that you can do, right? So like maybe the things you might not be able to take with you. Maybe you have photo albums still, but there are ways to digitize your memories. So there are some services that you can, send videos and DVDs and albums, and they will digitize them. They'll put them on, online basically for you or on a disk for you, a flash drive. So I've got that as well in my resource guide. And there's professional assistance. That's the other thing. So you can, do this on your own. You can do this with help from friends and family, help from a realtor, right? This is also part of what we do when we're helping people downsize is helping you figure out who can help. But then there are professionals who specialize in downsizing, decluttering, helping you get rid of things, helping you preserve your memories. So that is on my downsizing resource guide, right? So here's a snapshot of my downsizing resource guide that I am going to make sure that you all get. If for some reason there were a couple people who we did not have their emails or the emails got kicked back. So if you want to make sure you get this and you did not get any of my emails, please let us know. Please drop something in the chat or respond to my text message to let me know you did not get. I think if you all showed up here, hopefully you did get my emails. But let us know because we're going to we'll send this to you by email, a list of local resources for donation pickups, processing old documents, digitizing your memories, shredding services, professional organizers and declutterers. I think there might be something else on there as well. And then, so that's the packing up and the decluttering, again, is going to be a part of the process no matter how you do it. And then one of the other big questions that I think people have is, should I sell my home as is? So whether you're living in it or you're not living in it, this is a question that people are going to have. And so we'll talk about how to answer this question. One of the questions, and again, this is a very personal decision. It also can be a financial decision. So the biggest question I would ask you all is what's more important to you? More convenience or more money, right? A higher sales price. Sometimes you do spend money to make money. And so sometimes, by selling as is, you might be leaving money on the table by not spending money to make money. So we'll talk about that. But oftentimes, this is a big kind of overwhelming process, as we talked about. And so I think people often lean towards that more convenience, and as is sounds like more convenience oftentimes. And so selling off market and then on market, off market kind of goes also with if you do sell as is, you can sell it off market because you may be getting contacted by investors now, right? Investors know how to find people who are thinking about downsizing. They find people with high home equity, right? And they're like, okay, these people are probably, selling their home soon. And they also, frankly, you're a target for them because they're going to try to pay you pennies on the dollar for your home. Okay. I mean, that they know that because you have such high equity, they're like, I can get this for less than, what it's probably worth. But again, like the pros and cons, there are some pros to selling to investors, but know that you don't have to sell off market to an investor. You can still go on market and we can find the investors too. The advantages of selling to an investor is that they will buy your home in all conditions, right? Any conditions, even with stuff in it also. So you can leave stuff behind even. and they'll throw it in the dumpster for you. So they'll buy homes in any condition. They will do a fast closing, as fast as you want it to be. And they may offer some flexibility and some incentives to you. Sometimes they'll say they'll pay for your moving, and things like that because they're paying you less money, so they're going to pay for your moving. So realize that any incentives that they're offering you is just money that they could have given to you otherwise because they're getting a deal on your home. Uh, and then also if you're selling off market, sometimes the convenience factor, people like think that they just don't want to get the house ready. So it's just easier. Let's just sell it off market. Let's just, just tell people you know about it. So maybe you do hire a realtor, but you're like, just let people know, don't put it on the market. But word of mouth only goes so far. So we really have a better opportunity to make more money by putting it on the market. More buyers will get you the highest price. So versus just the few buyers who are finding you, we can bring more buyers to you by putting it on the market. And we can put it on the market as is. You can still do an as is sale on the market. Getting it into the MLS will bring you more buyers. Marketing, a realtor is going to do extra marketing, and that's going to bring you more buyers. Open houses will bring you more buyers. We can do open houses with as is properties, and pricing it right will bring you more buyers as well. So those are ways to get you the highest price by getting more buyers. Now, the as is question about what should I do to the home? So in answering that question, we want to consider what's the as is value versus the after repair value. We don't want you to spend money for no good reason, right? If there's a return, that's the goal, right? If you can spend money to make money, then it can make sense. And if you have the money to spend, obviously. So we want to try to figure that out. Can we spend some money in order to make you more money? And so in order to answer that question, we want to look at ideally as is comps, although those can sometimes be hard to find, right? Most of the homes on the market are not necessarily as is. And as I've talked about, you may leave money on the table if you do sell as is. The ARV is the after repair value. Admittedly, that's going to be a guesstimate, right? Because we're not 100% sure how it's going to turn out, and what we're comparing it to. But we will look at these things, and this is one of the things, like I said, that if you schedule a one-on-one consultation, we can look more closely at these things for you. So getting ready to sell on the market, you don't always have to do a lot. That's the other thing, getting bang for your buck. Just decluttering and depersonalizing, that alone can make a big difference. So, right, that's why we talked about that first. Yes, getting rid of the stuff. Start sooner rather than later. It is never too soon to start decluttering, depersonalizing, getting rid of the stuff that you don't need. Donate, give away, decide what you don't need anymore. Start there, and that will make a big difference, just opening up how your home shows. And then things like if you have hardwood floors underneath carpet, ripping out that carpet and exposing hardwood floors. Hardwood floors are still very popular. And so that's a simple thing. And we don't know the condition of your hardwood floors. It doesn't matter, right? But trust me, like just exposing hardwood floors can make a difference. Bringing in natural light, just taking down curtains, right? I know older people, sometimes like their curtains, and these days, no, right? Most people are not using curtains, but more importantly, so it's dating. The curtains are dating, but also just bringing in natural light. Buyers love natural light. And then consider some of these other things that can get you bang for your buck. Painting is one of the best bang for your buck opportunities. One, you could do it yourself. Maybe you have kids who can do it for you. If you are painting a whole home, I think one of my clients just paid $10,000 to paint their whole home. So, it's not no expense, but it is one of the best expenses to just give your home a facelift, especially if you haven't painted in a while. A deep cleaning alone, just that too. A good deep cleaning can make a big difference. Changing light fixtures, another bang for your buck. If you have dated light fixtures, getting some new light fixtures in there doesn't cost that much and can make a big difference. Updating hardware is another thing. Hardware on cabinets, hardware on doors. these are things that, again, maybe you or your kids or grandkids might be able to do some of these things. Might not cost a lot of money. These are light, lower cost ways that you can improve the home. So it's not 100% as is. And then maybe get probably, actually, believe it or not, I mean, a much better return on just doing some of these things. Now, if your home looks like this and you want to do a full reno, we actually do at Homes by Mason have a design to sell program. So in this case, this home is in Alexandria. It's actually down the street from Kristen. She didn't see it when it was in this condition. So this is a home that we did a design to sell project. It ended up looking like this. So those are the same spaces. These two spaces are the same spaces here. Uh, so what we do, my husband is actually a licensed general contractor who is the owner of Woodmaster LLC. And so if you want to, and in that case, I think that client spent about 100,000 and made almost 100% return on his money. So he made almost another 100,000 above what he spent. So if you want to go that route, and again, you don't have to make this decision on your own. We can help you figure out what that after the ARV, that after repair value would be. But the design to sell program, because my husband and I can do all of this and make all of the decisions, basically, we would give you a proposal and give you a budget. And if you approve the budget, you just write the checks and he and I do the rest. We make the decisions about the paint color and the hardware and the design and the layout and everything. We take care of the rest. So that is an option available to you as well. So otherwise, so deciding what needs to be done, right? In terms of, are you going to go the whole shebang? Are you just going to do hardware, lights, floors? What are you going to do? So does your home look dated? If your home looks dated, it's a good idea to make some minor changes to freshen it up, make it look a little more modern. First impressions do matter. So if you do nothing else, kind of like the front door, the front entryway, the main level, that makes a difference. Kitchens and baths are most important. Spending some money to make money, we've been talking about that, and considering affordable improvement options. You do not have to make these decisions alone, right? Consulting with a trusted realtor, that's what we do. Help make the decisions about what the market likes, what the market will respond to. And so fortunately, that is what I do. So I am a listing specialist. So you met Latoya and Kristen, who are both buyer specialists. So I'm a listing specialist. And so you can schedule, as I mentioned before. So Kristen and Latoya can drop now in the chat if they haven't already. They can drop a link for you to schedule a no cost, no obligation in-home consultation with me. So I'll come into your home and we can have more of these conversations, dig deep into your circumstances, your situation, help figure out, where do you want to go? Which option do you want to consider? What's the timeline? Do you need to buy first? Or, do you have the opportunity? Can you buy first or do you need to sell first? What's the timing? And what are the resources that you need to do what you need to do? Shredding, digitizing, painters, what do you need, right? All of that. Again, you don't have to do this alone. Those of you who said in the beginning, you felt overwhelmed, right? It is overwhelming. I mean, frankly, again, as a daughter going through this with my parents now, it can be a bit overwhelming, but working with a trusted professional, this is what we do. So when we are helping people downsize, we're not just putting the sign in the yard. And like our job starts way before that. So it starts now, like when you're here, educating you about the process, helping you make the decisions about what is the best next move for you and how and when to get there, and as is or not as is, and things like that. So I can't see the chat box right now. So hopefully Kristen and Latoya, yes, you're nodding, are dropping the link in there. Thank you. So in that chat box is that link if you want to schedule that. And now, so 7:57, so timing, I did okay on timing. We're at 7:57. How are you feeling now? I got Kristen and Latoya giving me some thumbs up, hopefully. I see it looks like Susie's giving me a little bit of a smile. Yeah. So do you hopefully you feel like your time was well spent? Yes, good. Head nod. I lost some of my other faces here. Hopefully, is it fair to say you learned something of value tonight? Anybody else, if I don't see your face, you could give me a thumbs up or a reaction. The reaction button is somewhere near the chat button, those of you who I can't see. Do you feel better prepared for the process of buying and selling at the same time? And again, like most of you, frankly, who signed up, one of the questions was, what's your timeline? Most of you said next year or later. And so, and that, right, like that makes sense. You know, there's a lot to do here. There's a lot of decisions to make. Um, and uh and time, right? So I mean, and you probably don't have to rush, right? Like, I mean, in this case, you probably have the luxury of not having to rush. Do you feel empowered? Hopefully you feel a little empowered. And when I get you that resource guide, even more empowered when I get that to you. Are you ready to take the next step? There's going to be lots of next steps. So let me see what I put here. Our next steps, right? So it kind of depends, right? There's going to be lots of next steps. If you're not sure if you can buy first or not, getting that loan application done is going to be an important next step to figure that out. Okay. So we'll make sure that you have James's contact information again, if that's going to be your next step. Scheduling a private consultation is another good next step. You don't have to make these decisions alone. You don't have to do it all alone. Again, you may have kids, you may have family members helping you, and realtors when helping people downsize, believe it or not, right? Like again, full service real estate. Again, our job does not start when the sign goes in the yard. The pre-listing preparation stage starts early with downsizers. So scheduling that private consultation to help you make some of those decisions, help you throughout the process, even if that process is a year from now, it's okay. And then plan your timeline to simplify your lifestyle. Those are your next steps. So here is a QR code as well. You can scan the QR code if you're not able to find the link in the chat box. Let me see. And then questions come next. So let me find my chat box to see if there's any questions for me. Where's my chat box? There we go. I got my chat box open. Okay, so let me see. So now is an opportunity. I'll leave this screen up if anyone does want to scan the QR code. And that's amazing. Oh my God, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Less overwhelmed. Oh, that was Kristen. Great information. Lots of resources. Again, yes, I'm definitely going to get you that resource guide with your email address. So please, like I said, again, I think if you all showed up, I've got your good email addresses. Have to go. Did somebody, Kimberly said they have to go, I think. So the floor's open for questions. If you all have questions, you can unmute. You can either use the chat box or unmute yourself. 8 o'clock on the dot. Not too bad. Let me.
Maggie, did you have a question? You're
Oh,
on,
your mouth is moving, but I can't hear you, Maggie.
you were off mute and then
Has to unmute. There we
I know.
go.
Oh, oh,
Oh, no,
nope.
hold on. Wait. Okay, now.
Okay. That was so great. Thank you. I apologize. I was in and out with family members in the house. It makes it more challenging, but those are great information. So I really appreciate all that you have compiled, and it's a lot to process, and I'm excited to start this journey. So thank you so much.
Good. Well, thank you for the feedback. Like I said, it was hard to kind of compress it. I was like, right, like there's a
It's a
lot.
lot.
To get it
A
into
lot.
1 hour. And that's why, like I said, so that, we gave you the overview and the summary today. And, happy to do those one-on-ones with you, even if you're a year out, it is okay, right? Like let's have
Yeah.
one-on-one conversations to figure out which of those options, right? Which type of home are you looking for, and therefore how much size, right? How much space are you going to have? What are the right resources? Which are your next steps?
Yeah, I'm glad I'm doing this earlier
Yeah,
because I didn't know there was all these different avenues that were necessary to think about. So,
yeah,
a lot of thought to go into this. So, thank
good,
you for having the information at hand.
good, awesome, thank you, Susie. Are you unmuted? Do you have a question?
I did. No, I don't really, except I'm in Arlington and there are so many places that are getting torn down. I mean, we're
Mm,
on a double lot
yeah,
and missing middle is nipping at the heels, which
yeah,
I hate. And how much do you do to your home and then you turn around and somebody buys it and they tear it down? I mean,
yeah,
it would be a crime because it's a beautiful home, but
yeah.
you know,
No, that is a great question.
there's no guarantees.
There are no guarantees. I had a sale like that last year in Arlington. God, was it 19th Street? I'm trying to, it was, a numbered street in North Arlington. Um, and it did get torn down.
Hmm.
But I, they chose to clean it out. So they
Hmm.
didn't do any repairs to it. They
Okay.
just cleaned it out and we put it on the market and we sold it, I mean, in the 900s, like 930 or
Hmm.
something like that. And it did get torn down. But that was why it was like, we were pretty sure it was going to get torn down, which is why they didn't make repairs. But they
Okay.
did clean it out,
Hmm.
take most of the things out of it and clean it up. And we did put it on the market. We did the marketing, we did the open houses.
Sure.
And so, that did bring in more buyers. And now the investors were competing with real buyers as well.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, I feel pretty confident that that investor did pay more.
Yeah,
And yes,
probably.
God,
Uh-huh.
actually, I do remember we did get initial offers, right? Like before it hit the market, like live, we were getting way less offers
Okay.
than, the 930 or whatever that we did get for it.
Okay. Well, this is early in the process, but I'm starting to do a lot of clean out and boy, do I have a lot of clean out. I'm in the parents situation, not I
Okay.
mean, so I've accumulated, God, 50 some years of stuff.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have digitized most of my
Good for
photos, though.
you.
So that's done,
Good for
mostly
you.
done. Hmm.
Good.
But thank you for doing this. It's very informative, really is.
You are welcome. Let me see what else. So, a question. So, okay. So, I do have a couple of other resources. Um, if you didn't sign up for a one-on-one consultation, if you're not ready to sign up for that right now, there's a couple of other things you can sign up for. And Latoya and Kristen also have those links. So this is a free monthly home equity analysis. It's automated. So, you know, it it's not me coming into the home, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not as good as me coming into the home and looking at the home and doing an equity analysis for you. But if you don't feel ready for that yet, this is again kind of a putting your toe in the water.
Mhm.
And it's a way to keep in touch with me and James actually. So we have this
Okay.
program called HomeBot that comes from both of us that will
Hmm.
give you a monthly home equity analysis.
Okay.
So, okay, great. Kristen dropped that link in there. So the link is in the chat and this is a QR code. And so that's one thing that you can get coming to you monthly from us. And then we also do a weekly email at Homes by Mason. So this is, again, just another way to keep in touch with us. I mean, one-sided, right? Hopefully you get it and you read it and maybe reach back out to us on occasion. But what do we do in the weekly email? So we send it on Fridays at noon. And I did this earlier today. So every Thursday, I do a market update. What's happening in the market? And I look at I start with national and then I look at the regional and I go down to the hyper local, Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax, and Falls Church. What is happening in our market year over year, week over week, trying to stay ahead of the curve. So I do that video every week and that comes out in my weekly email. Also, we have homeowner tips, and sometimes it is paint colors, and sometimes it is easy fixes to your home, or light updates and things like that. Also, we do events, so that is a way you could actually come out and meet me in person and hang out with us, and what's the word I'm looking for? Like bend my ear. That's what I was looking
Yeah.
for. So we just did a happy hour at Guapo's. So that's always fun. And so I mean, I do a beach day. I do so we do different events. We try to do some for families and some for
Mhm.
non-families, and so we mix them up. But the events will get announced in the weekly emails, and then we also do behind the scenes articles. What happens
Okay.
behind the scenes of real estate? There's a lot
Mhm.
that happens behind the scenes.
Oh, I know. I'm
Yeah.
married to some, so but thank you. I have to go, but
Okay.
I do thank you for all the information. It's been very
You
informative,
are welcome, Susie.
very helpful.
So you've got our information again. You've got my email. You've got
Mhm.
my text, my phone number. I've been texting you. Here's James's contact information again.
Got it.
We can get that to you as well. And then there's my contact information again. You've got all of
Okay. Well,
that. So
I've got
yeah.
to run, but thank you
Okay.
so much,
You're
all of
welcome.
you.
Thank you, Susie. Anybody else? We've got a couple other people still on mute with black boxes. You may or may not be sitting there behind the black box. I don't know. So let's see, in the chat box, how much clean? So that was Susie's question. She asked how much clean out if you're pretty sure your home will be a tear down. Um, so yeah, I mean, again, determining whether it's a tear down is part of the process. And so having a realtor help answer that question. And if it's going to be a tear down, then obviously in that case, you can actually leave stuff behind. With my clients who sold last year on, I think it was 19th Street, we were pretty sure it was gonna be a tear down. So I kept telling them, I'm like, you can leave stuff there. You don't have to take stuff out of it. And they wanted to, partly, I'm not sure why, but I was like, you can leave stuff behind. If we are confident that it is gonna be a tear down, you can just take what you want out of there and leave it. So a lot of investors will buy it and they're gonna get a dumpster anyway and put your stuff in the dumpster. Let's see. So in the chat box, I'm just checking what else we have here. So you do have the link. Drop the link again if you would for scheduling a one-on-one. So we've got 3 different links, which hopefully isn't too confusing. But yeah, so you can sign up for a one-on-one. That just got posted now. That's the job form or the schedule. Oh, it says the buyer consultation. Yeah. So that's to schedule a one-on-one and come into the home. We can do it on Zoom if you want, or I'll come into the home. And then the other 2 options you have available to you are that monthly home equity analysis. If you're not ready for me to come into the home and you just want an idea of what your home is worth, and how much equity you have, you can use that link for the home equity analysis, and it will email you updates every month, once a month. That comes from James and I. And then the email registration is just, again, a way to, it's kind of fun and informative, right? Like I said, there might be some homeowner tips. If you are going to be living in your home for another year, you might find some tips in there that would be helpful. You might decide to come out to an event and meet us in person, and that weekly market update can be helpful to keep track of what's going on in the market. Yeah, the behind the scenes Kristen talked about. Okay, so Ken, Judy, Google, Amy, anything else that you want to ask before we sign off here? And then James's information. So yeah, so James's www.jamesgaudiosi.com is his information if you want to connect with him. All right, last call. Oops, let's see. Where's my QR code? That's me. There's the QR code for the one-on-one consultation. Oh, I forgot to tell people. I forgot this part. If you do click the link, there's different days that you get to a page that looks like this. You can either use the calendar or you can scroll here through the different days. I forgot to tell people that that's what that looks like. All right, looks like people are dropping off. Ken and Google Pixel. Anything else we can answer for you tonight? Anything else in the chat? I don't see anything else in the chat. Were there any questions that I missed in the chat from earlier?
No,
Nope.
we're keeping track of them. Mhm.
Okay, were you able to answer? Were there some questions you were able to answer?
Yeah, yeah, no, they were just comments mostly, but we were tracking them. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good. Well, thank you all for coming, and we will follow up and to make sure that you all have what you need and see if there's any other questions we can answer one-on-one with you all. So
Thanks,
thanks
everyone.
again for coming.